The air in the hospital room hung heavy with despair, thick enough to taste. Outside, Seoul shimmered under the relentless summer sun, a vibrant contrast to the muted greens and sterile whites within these walls. Inside, Lee Hannah, a nurse with 10 years of experience etched onto her weary face, adjusted the 4-drip feeding into the frail arm of Min-jun, a boy who, at 7 years old, had already spent half his life battling a rare and aggressive form of leukemia. Hannah had seen her share of suffering. She'd held the hands of the dying, comforted grieving families, and witnessed miracles that defied medical explanation. But Min-jun was different. His spirit, even now, flickered like a stubborn candle flame in a storm. He still managed a weak smile, a whispered thank you, even when the pain was unbearable. He clung to life with a tenacity that both broke and strengthened her heart. The door clicked open, and a presence filled the room, eclipsing even the sterile atmosphere. It was Hyun Bin. The Hyun Bin. The actor whose face graced billboards across the city, the heartthrob whose every move was chronicled in glossy magazines. But here, in this room, stripped of the celebrity gloss, he was simply a father, his eyes red-rimmed and haunted. He didn't speak at first, simply stood by the window, his back to Hannah, the tension radiating from him like heat from a furnace. Finally, he turned, his voice a low rasp that barely carried over the rhythmic beeping of the machines monitoring Min-jun's vital signs. "Nurse Lee," he began, his gaze unwavering. "I know you've been taking care of my son." Hannah nodded, her throat suddenly tight. "He's a very brave boy, Mr. Hyun." Hyun Bin ran a hand through his already disheveled hair. "Brave isn't enough. The doctors, they've said there's nothing more they can do. They've exhausted every option. They say it's a matter of time." The unspoken words hung in the air, heavy and suffocating. Hannah felt a familiar ache in her chest, the dull throb of helplessness. He took a step closer, his eyes pleading. "I can't accept that. I won't. There has to be something, anything. I've contacted specialists all over the world. I've explored experimental treatments, alternative therapies, nothing. Everyone says the same thing." His voice broke, and for a moment, the facade of the stoic actor crumbled, revealing the raw, desperate grief of a father facing the unimaginable. I'm prepared to do anything," he continued, his voice regaining a semblance of control. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a small, velvet box. He opened it, revealing a thick stack of Korean won. The sheer volume of money took Hannah's breath away. "I know money can't buy miracles," Hyun Bin said, his voice thick with emotion. But I'm offering $4 million. To anyone who can cure my son. To anyone who can find a way to save him." Hannah stared at the money, then back at Hyun Bin's desperate face. $4 million. A sum that could change her life, the lives of her family. But it was also a sum that felt tainted. It felt like an admission of defeat, a desperate attempt to buy something that was beyond price. "Mr. Hyun," she said softly, "I understand your desperation. But I'm a nurse. I can't promise you a cure. I can only promise to continue to care for Min-jun, to make him as comfortable as possible, to be there for him and for you." Hyun Bin looked at her, his eyes filled with a mixture of hope and disbelief. You don't want the money?" Hannah shook her head. "It's not about the money, Mr. Hyun. It's about Min-jun. It's about giving him the best possible care, the best possible chance, until there's nothing more we can do." He closed the box, his hand trembling slightly. Then what do you suggest? What can we do?" Hannah took a deep breath. She had an idea, a long shot, a whisper of hope that she'd been hesitant to voice, fearing it was too far-fetched, too unrealistic. But looking at Hyun Bin's desperate face, at the flickering flame of hope in Min-jun's eyes, she knew she had to try. "There's a doctor," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "A retired hematologist. Dr. Park. He was a pioneer in bone marrow transplantation, decades ago. He's unconventional. He's also very difficult. He lives in seclusion, in the mountains. He hasn't practiced medicine in years. But he might know something. He might have seen something, learned something, that could help Minjun. Hyun Bin's eyes widened. Dr. Park? I've heard of him. He was a legend. But he's impossible to reach. No one knows where he is. I do, Hannah said quietly. He used to be my grandfather's neighbor. I know how to find him. Hyun Bin stared at her, his face a mask of disbelief. You know how to find him? And you're willing to take me to him? Hannah nodded, her heart pounding in her chest. This was a gamble, a long shot. But it was the only hope she could offer. I'll do whatever it takes, Mr. Hyun, she said. For Minjun. But I can't promise anything. Dr. Park may refuse to see us. He may not be able to help. But we have to try. A single tear rolled down Hyun Bin's cheek. Thank you, Nurse Lee, he whispered, his voice thick with emotion. Thank you. And so began their journey, a desperate quest into the heart of the mountains, a journey that would test their faith, their courage, and their very definition of hope. A journey that would reveal that sometimes, the greatest miracles are found not in laboratories or hospitals, but in the most unexpected places, and in the most unexpected hearts. The next morning dawned crisp and clear. Hannah, after a sleepless night filled with a mix of anxiety and a sliver of hope, arrived at the hospital earlier than usual. She found Hyun Bin already there, sitting by Minjun's bedside, his face etched with a weariness that seemed to age in years. Minjun, however, was surprisingly cheerful, drawing intently in a large sketchbook. Good morning, Nurse Lee. Minjun chirped, his small face lighting up. Look, I'm drawing the mountains. Are we really going to see them? Hannah smiled, forcing a lightness she didn't quite feel. Yes, Minjun. We are. It's going to be an adventure. Hyun Bin rose, his eyes meeting Hannah's. Are you sure about this, Nurse Lee? It's a long journey, and the conditions will be rustic. I'm sure, Mr. Hyun, Hannah replied, her voice firm. It's the only option we have. And I'm prepared. The hospital administration, initially hesitant, had eventually relented, granting Minjun a temporary leave of absence after Hyun Bin pulled some strings and signed a mountain of waivers. The journey to Dr. Park's secluded mountain dwelling was arduous. They traveled first by car, then by a rugged four-wheel drive, the landscape growing increasingly wild and untamed. Finally, they reached a point where the road ended, replaced by a narrow, winding mountain path. We'll have to walk from here, Hannah announced, pointing to the path that disappeared into the dense forest. Hyun Bin looked at the steep incline, his face showing concern. Are you sure Minjun can manage this? It looks challenging. Minjun, however, was undeterred. His eyes shone with excitement. I can do it. I'm strong. He grabbed Hannah's hand and started up the path, his small legs surprisingly agile. The climb was indeed challenging. The air grew thinner, and the path was uneven, strewn with rocks and roots. Hyun Bin, despite his celebrity status and accustomed luxury, proved surprisingly resilient, carrying Minjun on his back when the boy grew tired. Hannah, familiar with the terrain, guided them carefully, her determination fueled by the hope that lay at the end of their journey. As they climbed higher, the forest grew denser, the air thick with the scent of pine and damp earth. The sounds of the city faded away, replaced by the chirping of birds and the rustling of leaves. It was a world away from the sterile confines of the hospital. Finally, after hours of trekking, they reached a clearing. In the center stood a small, weathered cabin, smoke curling gently from its chimney. This was it. Dr. Park's sanctuary. Hannah took a deep breath, her heart pounding in her chest. She approached the cabin cautiously and knocked on the wooden door. Silence. She knocked again, louder this time. After a long moment, the door creaked open, revealing a figure silhouetted against the dim light inside. An old man, his face lined with wrinkles, his eyes sharp and piercing. Dr. Park. What do you want? He rasped, his voice rough and gravelly. Hannah stepped forward, her voice trembling slightly. Dr. Park? My name is Lee Hannah. I'm a nurse. I used to live near your old house. I know it's been a long time. The old man's eyes narrowed.
Lee Hannah. I remember.
What brings you to my door after all these years?
Hannah took a deep breath.
I need your help, Dr. Park.
I have a patient, a young boy. He has leukemia.
The doctors say there's nothing more they can do. I heard about your work, your research.
I was hoping, maybe you could help.
Dr. Park stared at her for a long moment, his expression unreadable. Then, he turned and disappeared back into the cabin.
Wait! Hannah called out, but the door remained open.
Hyun Bin, who had been standing silently behind her with Min Jun, stepped forward.
What did he say?
Nothing, Hannah replied, her voice filled with disappointment.
He just went inside.
They waited, unsure of what to do. The silence stretched on, broken only by the sounds of the forest. Finally, after what seemed like an eternity, Dr. Park reappeared, holding a lantern in his hand.
He beckoned them inside.
The cabin was small and sparsely furnished.
A single room served as living space, bedroom, and laboratory.
Books lined the walls, and strange contraptions filled the shelves. The air was thick with the smell of herbs and chemicals. Dr. Park gestured to a worn wooden table.
Sit, he said curtly.
They sat, Hyun Bin holding Min Jun close. Dr. Park studied them intently, his eyes lingering on Min Jun's pale face.
So, he said finally, his voice softening slightly. Tell me about this boy.
Hannah explained Min Jun's condition, detailing the treatments he had undergone, the doctor's prognosis, and the desperation that had led them to his door. Dr. Park listened in silence, his expression unchanging. When she finished, he turned to Min Jun. Let me see you, he said, his voice surprisingly gentle. He examined Min Jun carefully, checking his eyes, his skin, his lymph nodes. He asked him questions about his symptoms, his energy levels, his pain.
Min Jun answered him honestly, without complaint. After a thorough examination, Dr. Park straightened up.
He's weak, he said, his voice matter of fact.
But he has spirit. That's something.
Hyun Bin leaned forward, his voice pleading.
Can you help him, Dr. Park? Is there anything you can do?
Dr. Park was silent for a long moment. Then, he shook his head. I haven't practiced medicine in years, he said.
My research, it's outdated. I doubt I can do anything that modern medicine hasn't already tried. Hyun Bin's face fell. Then there's no hope?
Dr. Park looked at Min Jun, his eyes filled with a mixture of pity and something else, something that looked almost like admiration. Hope is a dangerous thing, he said softly.
It can keep you alive, but it can also kill you. It can make you fight when you should give up, and it can blind you to the truth.
He paused, then continued.
I can't promise you a cure. I can't even promise you an improvement. But I can offer you something. I can offer you knowledge. I can tell you what I learned, what I discovered. I can show you the path I walked. Whether it leads anywhere, that is up to you. Hyun Bin and Hannah exchanged glances.
It wasn't the miracle they had hoped for, but it was something.
A glimmer of hope in the darkness.
We'll take it, Hyun Bin said, his voice firm.
We'll take whatever you can offer.
And so began their time with Dr. Park. Days turned into weeks as they immersed themselves in his world, learning about his research, his theories, his unconventional methods. Dr. Park, initially gruff and distant, slowly began to open up, sharing his knowledge, his experiences, his failures. He taught them about the intricate workings of the human body, about the delicate balance of the immune system, about the power of the mind-body connection. He showed them how to use herbs and natural remedies to support Min Jun's body, how to meditate and practice mindfulness to calm his mind. He didn't promise them a cure, but he gave them something more valuable, the knowledge and the tools to fight. He empowered them to take control of Min Jun's health, to become active participants in his healing process. Min Jun, surprisingly, thrived in this environment. Away from the sterile confines of the hospital, surrounded by nature and stimulated by Dr. Park's unconventional teachings, he seemed to regain some of his strength and vitality. He learned about the healing properties of plants, he practiced meditation with Dr. Park, and he even helped to prepare some of the remedies. Hyun Bin, too, found solace in this simple, natural life. He shed his celebrity persona and embraced his role as a father, caring for Min-jun, learning from Dr. Park, and finding a sense of peace he hadn't known existed. Hannah, watching them, felt a sense of hope she hadn't dared to feel before. Perhaps, just perhaps, this unconventional approach could make a difference. Perhaps, with Dr. Park's guidance, they could find a way to fight back against the disease that threatened to steal Min-jun away. One evening, as they sat around the cabin's fireplace, Dr. Park shared a story from his past. He spoke of a young patient he had treated decades ago, a girl with a similar condition to Min-jun's. He had tried everything he knew, but nothing had worked. The girl had eventually succumbed to the disease, leaving him heartbroken and disillusioned. "I blamed myself," Dr. Park said, his voice filled with sadness. "I felt like I had failed her. That's why I gave up medicine. I couldn't bear to face another failure." He looked at Min-jun, his eyes filled with a strange intensity. "But you remind me of her. You have the same spirit, the same determination. And I can't let you down. I can't let her down." He paused, then continued. "There's one thing I haven't told you. One thing I learned from that girl. Something that might, just might, make a difference." He leaned closer, his voice barely above a whisper. "She taught me that the body can heal itself, if you give it the right conditions. But more importantly, she taught me that the mind can heal the body. That belief, that hope, that unwavering conviction, can be more powerful than any medicine." He looked at Hyun Bin and Hannah, his eyes pleading. "You have to believe," he said. "You have to believe that Min-jun can heal. You have to fill his mind with positive thoughts, with hope, with love. You have to create an environment of healing, both inside and out. And you have to never, ever give up." His words hung in the air, heavy with meaning. Hannah and Hyun Bin looked at each other, their hearts filled with a renewed sense of determination. They knew it wouldn't be easy. They knew there were no guarantees. But they were willing to try. They were willing to believe. For Min-jun. For themselves. And for the little girl Dr. Park had failed so long ago. The next chapter of their journey had begun, a journey guided by hope, fueled by love, and driven by the unwavering belief in the power of the human spirit. The weight of Dr. Park's words settled upon them, a profound responsibility. The conventional world of medicine, with its cold pronouncements and probabilistic hope, felt a world away. Now, the onus was on them, to cultivate an atmosphere of unwavering belief. Hannah felt a surge of renewed purpose. She had always been meticulous in her care, administering medication, monitoring vital signs. But Dr. Park's words illuminated a different dimension of healing, one that required nurturing the spirit as much as the body. She knew Min-jun possessed an extraordinary resilience, a spark that had captivated her from their first meeting. It was that spark they needed to fan into a flame. Hyun Bin, the stoic actor accustomed to portraying emotions on screen, found himself grappling with a different kind of performance, one that demanded genuine vulnerability and unwavering optimism. The fear that gnawed at him was relentless, but he recognized the truth in Dr. Park's words. He had spent so long searching for a miracle cure, a scientific solution, that he had almost overlooked the power of his own belief, his own love. That night, Hyun Bin sat by Min-jun's bedside, the flickering fire casting dancing shadows on the boy's face. He told him stories, not of heroic characters on screen, but of Min-jun himself, of his bravery during painful procedures, of his infectious laughter, of his unwavering kindness towards others. He painted vivid pictures of a future where Min-jun was healthy and strong, running through fields of wildflowers, playing soccer with his friends. He watched Min-jun's eyes light up, the faintest hint of color returning to his cheeks. He spoke of their upcoming trip to the beach, a promise they had made long ago but had almost abandoned. He described the feel of the sand between his toes, the sound of the waves crashing against the shore, the taste of salty air. "We'll build the biggest sandcastle ever, Min-jun," he said, his voice thick with emotion. "And we'll fly a kite so high it touches the clouds." Min-jun smiled, a genuine smile that reached his eyes. "Promise?"
Promise, Hyun Bin replied, his heart swelling with hope.
Hannah, watching from the doorway, felt tears welling up in her eyes. It was a simple moment, a father and son sharing a dream. But in that moment, she saw the power of belief taking root, a tiny seed of hope planted in fertile ground.
The following days were filled with a newfound energy.
They continued Dr. Park's regimen of herbs and natural remedies, but now, their focus was on creating a positive and nurturing environment. They spent hours outdoors, exploring the surrounding forest, identifying plants, and listening to the sounds of nature. Hannah taught Minjun simple meditation techniques, guiding him to focus on his breath and visualize healing energy flowing through his body. Hyun Bin, shedding his celebrity persona, became a devoted caregiver, cooking healthy meals, reading stories, and simply spending time with his son.
He even learned to play the guitar, serenading Minjun with gentle melodies in the evenings.
Slowly, subtly, Minjun began to change. His appetite improved, his energy levels increased, and the dark circles under his eyes began to fade. He still had moments of pain and fatigue, but they were less frequent and less severe. He started to laugh more, to engage more fully in life. One afternoon, while they were sitting by the river, Minjun turned to Hannah and said, "I feel stronger."
Hannah's heart leaped with joy. "I see it too, Minjun. You're doing amazing."
Hyun Bin, who was nearby, overheard their conversation.
He rushed over and embraced Minjun tightly.
"That's my boy," he said, his voice choked with emotion.
"You're a fighter."
Dr. Park, observing from a distance, nodded slowly. He had seen glimpses of this before, moments of remission, fleeting periods of improvement.
But there was something different about this.
This felt sustainable. He saw the unwavering belief in Hyun Bin in Hannah's eyes, the genuine joy in Minjun's smile. He saw the power of the human spirit at work. However, Dr. Park knew that the road ahead was still long and uncertain.
Leukemia was a formidable foe, capable of striking back with devastating force.
He couldn't allow them to become complacent, to believe that the battle was won.
One evening, he gathered them around the fireplace and said, "We've made progress, yes.
But this is not a time for celebration.
This is a time for vigilance. The disease is still there, lurking beneath the surface.
We must continue to fight, to strengthen Minjun's body and mind, to never let our guard down." He then revealed a new element to their treatment plan, a series of visualization exercises designed to target the cancerous cells directly. He explained that the mind had the power to influence the body at a cellular level, that they could use their thoughts and intentions to destroy the disease.
The exercises were challenging, requiring intense concentration and unwavering focus. They involved visualizing Minjun's immune system as a powerful army, attacking and destroying the cancerous cells.
They visualized Minjun's bone marrow as a healthy and vibrant garden, producing new and healthy blood cells.
Hannah and Hyun Bin embraced the new challenge, guiding Minjun through the exercises with unwavering dedication.
They created elaborate stories and metaphors to make the visualizations more engaging and accessible for him. They filled his mind with images of strength, resilience, and healing.
Weeks turned into months.
Minjun continued to improve, slowly but steadily. His blood counts stabilized, his energy levels soared, and he even started to gain weight. He was able to participate in more activities, to run and play and laugh like a normal child. One day, Dr. Park announced that it was time for Minjun to undergo another round of medical tests, to assess the extent of his progress.
Hyun Bin and Hannah were filled with a mixture of hope and anxiety.
They had come so far, but they knew that the tests could reveal a different reality. The day of the tests arrived, and the waiting began. Hyun Bin and Hannah sat in the waiting room, their hands clasped tightly together, their hearts pounding in their chests. Hours passed, each minute feeling like an eternity. Finally, the doctor emerged from the examination room, his face unreadable. He walked over to them and took a deep breath. "The results are in," he said. "And, well, they're quite remarkable." He paused, allowing the suspense to build. "The tests show no signs of leukemia." The words hung in the air, heavy with disbelief. Hyun Bin and Hannah stared at the doctor, their minds struggling to comprehend what they had just heard.
"Are you sure?"
Hyun Bin asked, his voice barely a whisper.
Absolutely certain, the doctor replied. The leukemia is gone. Min-jun is in complete remission.
A wave of emotion washed over Hyun Bin and Hannah, a mixture of joy, relief, and disbelief.
They embraced each other tightly, tears streaming down their faces. They had done it.
They had fought back against the disease, against the odds, against all expectations. They had proven that the power of belief, the power of love, the power of the human spirit could indeed conquer the impossible.
But the journey wasn't quite over.
Dr. Park cautioned them that the remission needed to be maintained, that they had to continue to nurture Min-jun's health and well-being, both physically and mentally. He emphasized the importance of staying vigilant, of monitoring his condition, and of never losing faith. They returned to their lives, forever changed by their experience. Hyun Bin embraced his role as a father with newfound passion, dedicating his time and energy to Min-jun's well-being.
Hannah continued to care for Min-jun, incorporating Dr. Park's teachings into her practice.
And Min-jun, the little boy who had faced death with such courage and grace, lived his life to the fullest, cherishing every moment, spreading joy and hope wherever he went. He became a symbol of resilience, an inspiration to others battling illness, a testament to the power of the human spirit.
The $4 million offer, once a desperate plea, became a distant memory.
They had found something far more valuable than money, the knowledge that belief, love, and unwavering determination could indeed move mountains. The nurse, Lee Hannah, had not simply cured Min-jun, she, along with Hyun Bin and Dr. Park, had helped him heal himself, revealing the extraordinary power that resided within. And in doing so, she had surprised everyone, including herself.
Life after remission settled into a rhythm, a dance of cautious celebration and unwavering vigilance. Min-jun blossomed.
His laughter, once a fragile melody, now rang with the unbridled joy of a child given a second chance. He chased butterflies in the garden, built towering Lego castles, and peppered Hyun Bin and Hannah with endless questions about the world around him. Hyun Bin, once consumed by the frantic search for a cure, now found solace in the simple act of being a father. He read Min-jun bedtime stories, helped him with his homework, and cheered him on at his football games.
The weight of his fame seemed to lift, replaced by the lightness of genuine connection.
He still accepted acting roles, but his priorities had irrevocably shifted. He chose projects that resonated with his newfound appreciation for life, stories of hope, resilience, and the enduring power of family.
Hannah, too, found her life transformed.
The experience had deepened her compassion and solidified her commitment to holistic healing. She continued to work at the hospital, but she also began to incorporate visualization techniques and mindfulness practices into her care for other patients. She saw firsthand how these methods could alleviate pain, reduce anxiety, and empower patients to take an active role in their own healing. One crisp autumn evening, as the leaves swirled outside the window in a vibrant tapestry of red and gold, Min-jun sat nestled between Hyun Bin and Hannah on the sofa.
A documentary about childhood cancer was playing on the television. Appa, Min-jun asked, his brow furrowed with concern, are all those children going to get better like me?
Hyun Bin wrapped his arm around his son, his heart aching with empathy for the families battling similar struggles.
We hope so, Min-jun, he replied gently.
We hope that every child gets the chance to grow up and live a long, happy life. Min-jun paused, his gaze fixed on the screen. Maybe I can help them, he said softly. Hannah smiled, her eyes shining with pride.
How would you do that, sweetie?
I can tell them my story, Min-jun said, his voice growing stronger.
I can tell them that even when things are really hard, they shouldn't give up hope.
And I can show them how to imagine their bodies getting stronger.
Hyun Bin and Hannah exchanged a knowing glance.
Min-jun's words were a powerful reminder of the impact their journey had had, not only on their own lives but also on the potential to inspire others. And so, Min-jun's story began to spread. Hyun Bin, using his platform, arranged for Min-jun to speak at a charity gala for childhood cancer research. Initially hesitant, Min-jun found his voice when he saw the faces of the children in the audience, their eyes wide with hope and anticipation. He spoke with a sincerity and wisdom beyond his years, sharing his experience with leukemia and the visualization techniques that had helped him heal. His speech moved the audience to tears. Donations poured in, exceeding all expectations. But more importantly, Min Jun's story resonated with families around the world, offering them a beacon of hope in the darkest of times.
The momentum continued.
Min Jun, with the support of Hyun Bin and Hannah, started a foundation dedicated to raising awareness about childhood cancer and promoting holistic healing approaches. They organized workshops for children and their families, teaching them visualization techniques, mindfulness practices, and the importance of nutrition and emotional well-being. Hannah played a crucial role in developing the foundation's programs, drawing on her medical expertise and her personal experience with Min Jun's healing journey. She worked tirelessly to ensure that the programs were evidence-based and accessible to all families, regardless of their socioeconomic background. Hyun Bin, meanwhile, used his celebrity status to amplify their message. He spoke at conferences, gave interviews, and even produced a short film about Min Jun's story, which was screened at film festivals around the world. The foundation grew rapidly, attracting volunteers, donors, and medical professionals who shared their vision of a world where every child with cancer had the opportunity to thrive. They funded research into innovative treatments, provided financial assistance to families struggling with medical expenses, and created support networks for children and their caregivers. Years passed. Min Jun grew into a vibrant young man, his spirit undimmed by his past ordeal. He excelled in school, pursued his passion for art, and continued to be a source of inspiration to others. He never forgot the lessons he had learned during his battle with leukemia, and he remained deeply committed to the foundation's mission. One day, as Min Jun prepared to leave for university, Hyun Bin sat him down for a heart-to-heart conversation.
Min Jun, Hyun Bin said, his voice filled with emotion, I am so incredibly proud of you. You have overcome so much, and you have used your experience to make a real difference in the world.
Min Jun smiled, his eyes sparkling with gratitude.
Appa, he said, I wouldn't be where I am today without you and Hannah. You never gave up on me, even when things seemed impossible. Hyun Bin embraced his son tightly. We will always be here for you, no matter what, he said.